This is a video about 10 reasons not to live in Auroville. Hello, this is Wake Up, and recently I made a video about 10 reasons to live in Auroville. It turned out to be 12 reasons and the video was quite popular, so I will make another video about 10 reasons not to live in Auroville, 10 disadvantages. All in all, the advantages probably outweigh the disadvantages. But I think it's still helpful to know. Don't move to Auroville if you still have mundane aims in life. It is not an ashram and it is not a cult, but material success is not a main goal there. It's not even a supported goal there. The following are the reasons I have discovered. There may be more, and also some of the reasons might not be valid reasons for you. Nevertheless, I think these might be helpful to be aware of before considering to move yourself there, or maybe even you and your family. Reason 1, bugs, and I'm not talking about mosquitoes, which also live there of course, but I'm talking about stomach bugs, diarrhea. In every tropical country or subtropical country you have these problems, not only in Auroville. And many people, Indians and foreigners, about a third I would say, suffer from chronic diarrhea there. Giardia, lamblia, salmonella, typhoid and so on. You do not necessarily have to be sensitive to that. I was, but not everyone is. Others, for example, they get boils. Those are staphylococcus infections from infected scratches or mosquito bites on your feet and legs, which can be quite painful. And some of these ailments, they go away after a while, after acclimatizing, and some don't. Second reason is spiritual pride, which is a problem of all spiritual communities, ashrams, monasteries, and so on. Once you practice your religion or spiritual practice every day for years, there's a very high risk that you become proud about it, which will be a huge obstacle to your further development of consciousness and waking up. Next is culture shock. India is not everyone's cup of tea. Some love it, some hate it, some both at once. I used to love it, but it's really not everyone's cup of tea. And whenever you go to a different country, you will get a culture shock. So better do some intercultural communication training beforehand or read about it. And even Indians who go to Auroville get a culture shock because half of the population is non-Indian. And East Asians get a double culture shock because, because they meet Indians and Westerners. There are very few East Asians. One particular culture shock I didn't care for was the gang violence and corruption around Auroville. Not in Auroville, but in Southeast Asia in general, not only in India also. They don't even call it really corruption, they call it relationships. But there's a little bit of gang violence around it, which I didn't find too comfortable. At least one Aurovillian already died from it, was cut down by machetes. So, also not everyone's cup of tea. Usually it's peaceful, but you can meet those guys now and then. You can meet them in any country, in poverty ghettos or in certain countries in Central America or South America or Asia. They exist everywhere, where there are cities and politics. And in rich countries, usually the corruption is just a little bit different, and the criminality, it's called lobbyism. Next is the language. I always make it a point for myself wherever I go that I learn the language to some degree. And I have done so invariably except Tamil. Tamil is one of these Dravidian South Indian languages with a very long tradition. And not only is it super difficult, especially the grammar, but it is spoken differently in every different village, basically. You drive for 50 kilometers and the Tamil may be completely different. I know people who managed to learn Tamil, and of course you can speak English everywhere, but still, I would prefer to speak the indigenous language, and I didn't manage, although usually languages are quite easy for me. So these 4 reasons have been reasons that are not specific to Auroville, but you can encounter them anywhere in Asia, anywhere in India, in any community, any spiritual community. And the next reason is partly specific to Auroville and partly it is a general reason that makes spiritual communities or alternative communities different, is that in this case, while it is great to have citizens from almost 60 different countries, everyone does bring their political system of their country they grew up in with them. And it is very difficult for most people to be able to stand an anarchistic power vacuum, because there's no one really in charge. There's no hierarchy. The hierarchy is totally flat. So there are always some people who wish to introduce their own vision of politics to the whole community. I personally, that was one of the things I liked best about Auroville, that there was no hierarchy, that everyone was equal. But some people just can't stand it, and that can get problematic. So now to the very endemic disadvantages of Auroville, or something that can be difficult to some people. First of all, it's not a good place to earn money or start a business or a career. In fact, do not move there if you still have any worldly ambitions. The same goes if you still want to study something in university or make an apprenticeship or acquire any material skills. Don't go there. Do it first, and then if you still want to go to Auroville, go to Auroville. It's a great place for spiritual development in spell dynamics terms, especially for getting into yellow and getting into turquoise. But otherwise, if you still want to achieve something, don't go there. If you still want to prove something to yourself or the world, make a mark on the world, don't go there. And not only is it not a good place for a career and to earn money, but it is also a place, because it's largely a green community, with a low regard for money and negative attitude towards money. Because green people usually can't tell the difference between capitalism and money. And any person in any place that has a low regard for money has a chronic money deficiency. And the last reason is that aging is faster physically. Time seems to run slower in Auroville. 5 years feel like 20, 10 years feel like 40, and so on. Thus, on the one hand, you can experience and develop more in 5 years than anywhere else. But on the other hand, your body might look rather wrecked and older than necessary too. And this weird time factor may also mean that if you came to Auroville with a spouse, this relationship might not endure. Might not endure the many years of intense internal transformation. So if you come there as a couple or as a family, this may not last. Which sometimes leads to one of the two parts of a couple leaving Auroville and one staying. And in fact, one of the great enemies of Auroville. There were some people who didn't like it, and then they make a huge media campaign against Auroville as a revenge. One person I know about was a psychopath who wasn't allowed to join Auroville. Another one was kicked out, which is a very rare thing. And the third lost his girlfriend and now blames Auroville for it. So that's a shame that people cannot use this as a chance for introspection and growth. That's also a good time to say that any other negative rumor you heard about Auroville is likely not to be true. It's not a cult and there's no weird stuff going on there. Only the usual interhuman chaos. As I said before, the founders of Auroville said that Auroville will happen in spite of the inhabitants. For me personally, my main reason I left was because I wanted to study medicine, but also some of the other reasons of those 10 I mentioned here. And my advice is, don't run away to another country because you don't like your own. Culture shock will get you for sure. And the more you run away, the worse it will be. No country is really better or worse in all aspects. There are always advantages and disadvantages. And India is not everyone's cup of tea. It is very extreme in many ways. Also, don't move there without money. Nothing is for free in this world anymore, and not in Auroville either. In every community in the world you need money for housing. There's no exception, and why should it be? It's not an ashram. So don't expect to be given a house just like that, like in an ashram. There are not enough houses anyway, and if you build a house or hut, that will be a donation to Auroville. If you leave, you will not get refunded. On the other hand, you can build a hut very cheaply. So don't move to Auroville before you have had some material life experience. Like, don't go directly after school or university. I mean, to visit, yes, or as a long-term guest, but not to move there forever. Go there after having satisfied your career needs. Because in Auroville there are no careers. It is possible to start a commercial unit, like to make tofu or incense sticks or whatever. And of course you are always welcome to do farming and forestation, but not a career in the usual sense. There's only the coral washer waiting for you, and there's lots of cleansing. It's lots of challenge for your inner development and growth and transformation. So if you haven't watched the first video about 10 reasons to live in Auroville, watch it. It's definitely worth visiting. This picture, for example, is the New Year's morning bonfire in silence. I've recently watched a lot of documentaries about Auroville, and most of them are plainly wrong or only highlight one tiny aspect. So I attached in the last video and this one also some videos that are okay, but you cannot judge a book by its cover. You have to really go there and spend a few months there. The mistake that many people make is that they go there for one day and you cannot see anything in one day, basically. Nothing. So it's so funny when you live there and then you get stopped by a tourist and they ask you, where's Auroville? Where's Auroville? And then they say, you are in Auroville, this is Auroville. But these are only trees, where's Auroville? It's a forest with some buildings and a lot of interesting people. And it is surrounded and interwoven with villages, of course. Why not? But it's 99% forest. And Auroville is the energy there and is the people living there mostly. So you can only get to know it by going there and trying it out. And there is no specific process to do that. Sometimes people ask me, okay, but who do I contact there? Yeah, there is some kind of contact where you can ask general questions, but you really have to go there and just allow to happen what will happen to make your own experience. And don't ask the residents any small talk questions like, how long have you been living here already? everyone hates that because they have been asked that 1,000 times already. Just go there and be you and see if it fits. Other people, they don't move to Auroville, but they visit it regularly for a few months every year also. For example, in winter, the temperatures there are quite moderate in January, February, something like that. That's it for today. Thank you for watching and subscribing or joining me on Patreon or Facebook, and see you soon.